Okay, so this is the first of 3 sessions. They're not repeats. The first one is on financial planning. The second one is investment fundamentals, and the third is investment strategies and summary. I wanted to start off with financial planning because it's really the prerequisite to investing. You shouldn't really start investing till you understand what you're investing for. This is going to have some Jewish themes with it. So we're going to hear from some famous investors, physicists, scientists, philosophers, many of whom are Jewish. If you have any questions, interrupt me at any time. I probably can't see you, but just speak up. I'm going to start off with a quiz. You don't have to answer, but these are the questions that we're going to answer in the 3 sessions, mostly in the last 2. And I'll start off. Should you hire a financial planner, advisor, wealth manager, whatever you call it? How much insurance do you need? How much do you need in retirement, and what is a safe withdrawal rate? Should you buy stocks or stock funds? Should you buy individual bonds, a total bond index fund, or high yield bond fund? If the market goes down 30%, what do you do? Do you buy low and sell high? What do you consider the most powerful force in the universe? Hint, see what Albert Einstein has to say. And what are the 3 most important things to investing? We know from real estate it's location, location, location. That's not true for investing. I want to start off with some caveats. I'm not giving financial advice to anyone specifically. I'm not licensed to do so. This contains general guidance that may be colored by my lens and my situation, but it will generally apply to everyone. There's no cookie cutter answers. Everyone is unique. They have their own requirements. They have their own plans for the future. 2 other caveats: past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. And conditions change, so be careful of old studies. I want to start off with, what is a financial plan? It has various elements. The first one really is you should form goals. What are your goals for the future? What do you want to invest in? What kind of lifestyle would you like? And prioritize those, because you may not be able to make every one of them. The next thing, you should really form some sort of budget and cash flow, baseline your present situation and your financial health. You should plan for retirement, no matter what your priorities are. You should have a strategy for accumulating retirement income that you will need. You should have an education plan for yourself, your children, or your grandchildren. You should have a comprehensive risk management plan. This includes a review of life, disability insurance, personal liability coverage, property and casualty coverage, et cetera, et cetera. You should have a long-term investment plan, a tax reduction strategy, and finally, an estate plan. In engineering, we called it less to dust when you start a project, and eventually everybody goes. You should execute, review, and adjust your financial plan as time goes by. And two pieces of advice, Yogi Berra, one of my favorites. If you don't know where you're going, you won't get there. And from Benjamin Franklin, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. If we talk about a budget, and a lot of people think that's a dirty word, and to tell you the truth, I never really had a budget. The first time I put together a spending plan was the year after I retired. And I guess I was kind of lucky because I invested correctly, but a lot of it was by accident. But a budget, whether you call it a budget or a spending plan, you don't have to necessarily follow it, but there's a bunch of items and expenses, and I won't read them off. There's income that you will have while you're working and after you retire, and there's a bucket list. And I'll go over the bucket list next, but there's also savings, investments, and debt payments within your expenses. A lot of people use what's called the 50-30-20 rule. 50% is for required expenses, 30% is for wants, and a lot of advice will tell you to save about 20% of your income. Some say at least 15%. I know when you're first working, it's difficult to save 20%. I probably saved very little when I first started working, but by the time I finished, I was probably saving 30%. When I talk about buckets, these are kind of special expenses, maybe college or education, a new car, long-term care, death expenses, a special vacation, a home or second home, special occasions, weddings, bar bat mitzvahs, a legacy, something to leave to your children or your favorite charity. Retirement planning. A lot of people use a ratio of what their pre-retirement income is. And that ratio is usually someplace between 70 and 90%. A lot of people will use 80%. It turns out that if you didn't make a lot of money while you were working, it's about 90%. If you're wealthy, it's also 90%, but middle class is about 80%. But there's better things to do than using a rule of thumb, and we'll go over that pretty soon. Again, everybody is different and has unique situations. Things depend upon marital status, income level, whether you've owned a home, your health, and the type of accounts that you have for retirement. Having a budget in retirement is a much more accurate way to plan than the replacement rate model. One of the things a lot of people use for retirement is Social Security. And this slide is a little old, but generally the minimum age you could retire is at 62. The maximum benefit is at age 70. And I believe now the normal retirement age where you're not getting a hit on your retirement income is now 67. It was 66. Most people retire about 65, but you don't necessarily need to collect Social Security right away. The longer you wait, the more income you'll get per year. Originally, it was designed so that over your lifetime, it didn't matter when you retired, you would get the same income over your lifetime. But now that people are living longer, usually it's better to wait to collect Social Security unless you're not in good health. I'd like to talk a little bit about annuities. And let me ask a question. Does everybody know what an annuity is? I don't hear.
No, I don't.
Okay. An annuity is something that you invested, and there's several different kinds. There's an immediate annuity where you put down money and you start getting a monthly or yearly income. There's deferred annuities. There's fixed income annuities where you're investing in bonds. There's variable annuities where you could invest in things like stocks. Most of the time, just a hint, most of the time I don't think annuities are very good, but there's a big but. It could give retirees a peace of mind, but they know what they get, what they're going to get, but it does come at a cost. There's fees associated with an annuity. But there's several kinds of annuities almost everybody has. For example, Social Security is really an annuity. When I get my pension, I don't get a pension check every month. I get an annuity check. They call it an annuity even though it's really a pension. Retirement planning. A lot of people like to know when you do retire, what's the safe withdrawal rate? You don't go through all your money, and how much do you really need in retirement? Number of years ago, in 1994, Bill Bengen came up and did a study to determine what is a safe withdrawal rate. And he looked at the market over a number of years. I think it was over 60 years. And what he found, if you needed to have 30 years of retirement income, he called it the 60-40 rule, which meant you had 60% of your money in stocks and 40% of your money in bonds or fixed incomes. And it wasn't really quite 60-40 that caught on as popular. It was really something like 63% in stocks, and it wasn't really 4%. It was, you could take out 4.15%. Of course, if you retired later in life and only had 20 years, the best you could do was have about 50% in stocks and 50% in bonds, and you could withdraw a little bit over 5% a year. And what I will say is, if you retire at 65, even though the normal lifespan is about till 85, usually they tell you to add 5 to 10 years to your expected lifetime and use that. So at 65, it's about 30 years or so. And by the way, 13% of people live to greater than 97 if they're at 65. Any questions so far? Speak up, interrupt me at any time. Again, if we go through the lifespan of a 65-year-old, whoops, sorry, it's about 85 for a male, 87 for a female. And we expect it to improve over the years. So for planning purposes at 65, most people use 30 years. You could also use 35 years. And in the lower right-hand side, you could see a graph how people's lifetimes are increasing. College savings. Some of you might be saving for yourself. You might be saving for your children or your grandchildren. I'm currently saving for my grandchildren, and a 529 plan is fairly new. When my kids went to school, there was no 529 plans, but 529 plans are excellent because what you invest for their education is not taxed at all. So it's a great place to invest. If we talk about college costs, if you look at the graph and you look at general inflation and people's wages, they track each other well. If you look at college costs, they rise about either double or 2.5 times the inflation rate. I don't know if that could go on forever, but college is extremely expensive. Estate planning. Inventory all your possessions, have a will, maybe a trust, certainly a tax strategy. Having a tax strategy will save you money, won't cost anything. Designate beneficiaries, have a durable power of attorney, maybe a living will, healthcare proxy, a plan for long-term care. If you own a business succession plan, a letter of intent, a listing of all your financial information. If you don't have an estate plan, the state will have one for you. Every state has their own rules. And it's called, if you don't have an estate plan, it's called dying without a will. It's called intestate. So the state will have its own plan for you. Risks. Everybody should be mitigating risks via insurance. There's different kinds: house insurance, flood insurance, automobile, disability, health, liability, repair insurance, life and long-term care. Insurance could be very complicated, especially life and long-term care insurance. A quote from Albert Einstein: "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And don't buy something you don't understand. Let the buyer beware." I generally think long-term care insurance is not a good buy. Insurance companies keep about 40% or more of your money. Life insurance also comes with high fees, by the way. So that's generally not a good place to invest, especially like a whole life insurance policy where they promise you that you're saving money. It's okay to buy a life insurance policy because you need insurance, but it's not a great vehicle to invest money in. Life insurance planning. A lot of people don't know how much life insurance to buy. And if you talk to a life insurance salesman, he might tell you to buy X amount of your salary, like 3 times your salary or 5 times your salary or 7 times your salary. That's not a very good way to buy life insurance. A much better way is to take a look at what happens after you die and how much money your spouse or children or whoever you need to protect with life insurance, what they'll really need. So this is an example, and I got this off of the internet. There's lots of places like this, but what this does is it builds a plan, and this one happens to have 3 periods. It was for a couple with children, and the first period is when your children are young, how much insurance you need. Eventually, they'll leave the nest, and there's a second period that goes from when they leave the nest to you retire, and then there might be a third period to after you retire. So what this does is it starts off with your assets, it starts off with your income, it starts off with your expenses, and then it goes through and it subtracts your income from your expenses, and what the difference is what you need for life insurance. And it may change during different time periods. The objective of life insurance is to leave your loved ones with enough money to live a comfortable lifestyle. It's not to make a fortune if you should pass. There's really 2 different types of life insurance. There's term insurance and whole life insurance. Term insurance is the easiest to understand. It's straightforward insurance. You buy a policy. It has no cash value. The only time it pays out is if you die. Generally, you buy term life insurance from anywhere from, say, 5 years to 30 years or so. Whole life insurance, on the other hand, sometimes called permanent insurance, hybrid insurance, it goes by a different name. Not only are you paying for life insurance, it has a cash value. So at any time before you pass, you could cash in your life insurance and it will have a money value. But you're not getting something for nothing. You're paying fees and you're getting a lot less life insurance for your money than if you have term insurance. Most experts, and the general consensus is, you shouldn't view insurance as an investment, that term life insurance is a much better choice than permanent or whole life insurance. Long-term care insurance. This is really a hard one to understand. And if you look at some of the literature, the Financial Times says turning 65 has a 71% chance that one of them will need long-term care. This statistic shows that the whole family can be affected, and it could put children at risk or having to care and to pay for their parents' care. Nursing home care is very expensive. It's about 170K, maybe more now, for a private room in our local area. There's a problem with what I just said, and you have to be careful from myth versus fact. Most people, nearly 79% who need long-term care, live at home or in a community setting, not in institutions. 52% of people turning 65 will need some time of long-term care services in their lifetime. The average stay in a nursing home is about 1 year. The median length of stay in a nursing home is about 5 months. Why I don't like long-term care insurance. It's expensive. There's very little competition. A number of companies who are in the long-term care business have gotten out. The insurance company keeps at least 40% of the premiums, so it's not going to go up. It's not going for your care. Rates could and have changed over time. Most policies that have been issued have had such rate increases that many people had to drop their insurance after many years. And finally, from Mark Twain, figures don't lie, but liars do figure. So be careful, and long-term care insurance is one of the toughest to understand. Emergency funds. Almost everybody should have an emergency fund. It mitigates risk. And what are risks? Loss of job, appliance repair, like your boiler just broke, a big automobile repair, medical expense. They should be liquid and no penalty for withdrawal, because you never know when you're going to need it. So not a CD. Most experts say keep 3 to 6 months of readily available fund for unforeseen circumstances. I found that in retirement, since I have individual retirement accounts where I could get at money immediately and at no cost, I keep about a month now myself. Credit card borrowing has very high cost. Withdrawing from tax-deferred accounts can be costly, especially before you're 59 and a half. And just a couple of things. I've read 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, which is poor. 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency bill. So establish an emergency fund and keep it aside from your other investments. So in financial planning, how do you get there? Prioritize your goals, including your bucket items. Pay yourself first. Does anybody know what pay yourself first means?
Yeah, I do, Ira. Isn't it when you put money aside and like basically automatic savings put out of your account so that you don't like buy all the stuff that you want to buy, and then what you have left over you put into savings? It means save first.
Yes, exactly. And what it usually means, even most experts will tell you to save for retirement before you save for anything else. I didn't exactly follow that. I certainly didn't grow up wealthy. When I came to New London, I didn't have much money to my name. I lived in New York City public housing growing up. I went to college for free, or else I wasn't going at all. When I came here in 1972, we got married in 78. We bought our first house in 1979. Mortgage rates was 10%. So the first thing I did was I paid off my mortgage, my 30-year mortgage, in about 13 years rather than 30 years. The second thing I did is I started to put money away for my kids' colleges. So both my daughters went to college debt-free, so they didn't owe any money. So at the beginning, I was saving very little. By the time I retired, I think I was saving well over 30% of my salary. Other things you could do is live below your means. Spend wisely. Buy things on sale. Invest properly.
So Ira, was this the first house that you bought that you're living in now? Or was it a different?
Exactly. So we
Wow.
got married in 1978. This is the first house that we built in 1979. We had our daughters in 81 and 82.
Well, that's quite a feat from where you were and to what you were able to do to, to go up in public housing and to make a complete turnaround and be able to provide for your daughter's education and let them graduate debt free, and also to pay off your mortgage so early. That's remarkable. So you didn't save, but you weren't able to save a lot, but you were able to pay down that mortgage really quick.
Yes, I paid down the mortgage, then we saved for college, then I started to save for retirement.
Yep.
And I always had an emergency fund, even though
Right.
I had a job that never really had any layoffs. So I was lucky.
Right.
Right. Use the investment rules as guides, and those will be presented during the next 2 weeks. Take advantage of tax-free or tax-deferred investing, like a 529 college plan, for a 1K plans, health savings accounts, mitigate risk. And I would say chart your long-term net worth to meet your budget and buckets over time. Do computations in present value.
Look at your chats. Your kids are chiming in, thanking you for being such a good dad.
Oh, okay, I can't see that.
They're on
And I think both my daughters are here.
the whole family, the whole kit and caboodle are thanking you.
Ah, okay. Certainly mitigate any risks. And as you track your progress, analyze your shortfalls, excesses, and modify your plans as necessary. And when I say I went to college for free, I went to City College of New York, which at the time was called the engineering school was called the poor man's MIT. And I think it turned out more engineering PhDs than any school in the country. I put together for myself what I call a big picture financial plan. I went through year one, the present, till at least age 90. And what I did in the spreadsheet, I listed all my income sources by year. I listed all my expenses per year. I looked at cash flow, what my investment income would be, and my net worth at the end of each year. I got this out of a book I read. It's called Making the Most of Your Money from Jane Bryan Quinn. And it's the first book I read really on financial planning. And I really recommend that. It didn't have this in a spreadsheet. It had it by lookup tables, but I've done it in a spreadsheet. I've used annuity formulas. So I do all my calculations both in present value and future value, because you can't just think of what things cost now because there's inflation. And remember from a previous slide that college costs are rising like at least double what the inflation rate is. The inflation rate it's low now, but it has averaged about 3% a year over the last 100 years or so. So it's been fairly steady. At times it's almost nothing, at times it's 10%, but the average has been about 10%. I want to talk about a financial planner and advisor. What the kinds of things you should look for. And they go by different names. They could be called a certified financial planner, a chartered financial analyst, a stockbroker, a CPA, a lawyer, a wealth manager. But things to look for: knowledge and experience, an holistic approach, which means they look at everything, not just one thing. They're a fiduciary, which means they have your best interest at heart, not their best interest. So they're not making money by selling you investments. They make money because either they make money when you make money, or they're taking like a cut of what you invest, like 0.5% or 1% or more. They're full service, so they go the gamut. They have a good product selection. You have face time with them. They could show you a sample financial plan. They have a good reputation, recommendations. You could look at complaints filed. You could interview them. They should be convenient. And finally, cost. You should be very careful when trusting your investments to others. There's a lot of scrupulous people around, and people who lost a lot of money. Think of Mr. Madoff, for example. So if you invested money with him and he was telling you you were making a lot of money, you weren't. So be careful. If you don't want to hire a financial planner, and I haven't, I've always done my own planning. There's expertise that is needed or handy to have, and I'll go through those. Ability to plan, to track, to replan, knowledge, discipline. Discipline is very important, and patience. Tools, being able to do trade-off studies, simulations, sensitivity analysis, spreadsheets, statistics, financial calculators, having historical data, mortality data that tells you how long you're going to live. And there's a lot of calculators. Some you could just look up your age and it will tell you what your expected lifetime is. I have calculators that ask you about 40 to 50 questions: your marital status, gender, what you eat, your health, all kinds of questions, and where you live, and we'll try and come up with your expected lifetime. And finally, time. You have to have time to do your own investments. Oops. The financial planning process. There's at least 6 steps, and whether you hire a financial planner or you do it yourself, I'll go through those. Gather client information or your own information, establish goals and objectives. You should prioritize them. You may not be able to make all of them, so they should be realistic. You should analyze your financial situation, develop a plan, present it, implement the plan, and monitor and review your plan. A professional financial plan, and I do have some examples, is usually done with software available to financial advisors. They're typically 20 to 40 pages. They contain charts and graphs. They may contain Monte Carlo analysis. Does anybody know what a Monte Carlo analysis is? No. What it is you use simulations, because even though you may invest in something that returns 8%, one year it might return 20%, another year it might return minus 30%. So by going through Monte Carlo analysis, you're not only hitting what you expect in the long term on average, you could look at different situations. So sometimes you'll do well, sometimes you do poorly. Extensive plans might be more than 100 pages long. They have better explanation of assumptions. They have more trade-off studies and what-if analysis. The Monte Carlo simulation will show the probability of meeting your goals. They have extensive charts, extensive graphs, more extensive estate planning. The more extensive charts and graphs may not do anything for you. It just may overwhelm you with data. But all prepared financial plans should be comprehensive. Should you hire a professional money manager or do it yourself? And I'm going to go through some hypothetical returns. If you hire a professional money manager, he may give you a return of 7.2%. The time to double your money will be 10 years. The time to double your buying power is not 10 years, it's 17% with a 3% inflation rate. If you could invest properly and do it yourself, you may get a return of 8%. You could double your investment in 9 years, double your buying power in 14 years. On the other hand, if you don't do it so well, you may only get 6%. And the time to double your investment will be 12 years. The time to double your buying power is 24 years. How do I get this? It's called the rule of 72. Has anybody heard the rule of 72? Yes, Judy has. What it is you divide the interest rate that you get or return into 72, and that tells you how many years it takes to double your investment. So for example, at 8%, you divide 8 into 72, and it takes 9 years to double your investment. At 6%, 12 years. When you take inflation into account, subtract 3% from those numbers. So if you're only getting a return of 6%, your real return is 3%. So it takes 72 over 3, 24 years to double your buying power. One of the questions I posed before, what is the most powerful force in the universe? This is Albert Einstein. It's not nuclear energy or the atomic bomb. Compounding. He said compounding is the most powerful force in the universe. That's why it's best to invest early and often. It'll do the most for you. John Bogle, one of my heroes, the founder of Vanguard, the founder of the index fund, probably made more millionaires than anybody. One should not let the miracle of long-term compounding of return be overwhelmed by the tyranny of long-term compounding of costs. That's why I do my own investments. I don't have a money manager for myself because I know what to invest in, and we'll see in the last 2 weeks, it's not hard. It's really pretty simple. Niels Bohr, another Jew who won a Nobel Prize in physics. An expert is a person who has made all the mistakes that can be made in a very narrow field. And this is the other hand. Do you want to become an expert? So a lot of people don't want to become experts, making mistake when they're investing money. So you have to be careful. And just a warning, you could do a lot worse than 6% if you invest in your own. When I first started work, I didn't know anything about investing in stocks or bonds. My investments were in CDs, which were poor, and I'm glad I got out of that very quickly. There is a place to invest in CDs, but most of your investments shouldn't be. There's something new, and it's called Robo Advisors. So where regular advisors might typically charge 1% of your investment, anywhere from 0.5% to 1.5%, sometimes 3%. Robo Advisors are computer-based services that help you invest as well. Portfolios are built and monitored with computer algorithms. Typically, they charge fees of 0.25% to 0.5%, which works out to about $125 to $250 a year based on $50,000. And they're fairly new, and they're getting more sophisticated. Generally, they don't provide customized financial plans or personalized investment advice, but many do offer online planning tools and calculators. And there's plenty of planning planning tools and calculators online that are free. I'd like to end this with, I'm just going to go to some of the recommendations that I've had. The first one was the book by Jane Bryant Quinn, Making the Most of Your Money. She has a newer version than this, but the appendix was really terrific. And she has other books as well. My hero was John Bogle, and he has a lot of books. The best one is called The Little Common Sense Investing, and I would recommend that to anybody. Another book that's fairly good is The Boglehead's Guide to Investing. Bogleheads is a term for people who follow John Bogle, and there's a internet site, www.boglehead.org, that has almost everything that's in the book. You could look at various articles. If you want, you could join for free and ask questions of the community. It's an excellent site. I think I'd like to wrap it up for today. Is there any questions?
Hey, Ira, if you stop sharing now, people can see better in gallery.
Ira,
Yes.
did you get professional help at any point in your evolution, or have you done it all by yourself all the way?
I've done it all by myself, and 2 books that I mentioned, the one by Jane Bryant Quinn and anything by John Bogle, are absolutely terrific books. And we'll see in the next 2 weeks. It's really simple to invest. You could do much better than any wealth advisor usually.
Thank you so much. You did a great job. You've done a
Thank you,
lot of
Ira.
work on this for yourself and for us.
Thank you.
And I'm
I
glad
have
my,
Great summary.
I'm
Great
glad my 2
information.
daughters joined us. I hope.
Somebody has a question.
One of the things I failed to pass on any knowledge to them. So I'm hoping that they watch these 3 things on financial planning and investing so they can learn too. It's better not to make your own mistakes. And I would say on the way, I was very lucky. And
You know, I think I commend, of course, what you've been able to do, but I think a lot of people, you know, not everybody has like the mindset or like the same brain gears to be able to read the information and then apply it. You know, like I would have a hard time right now trying to learn another language of any type, you know, either computer language or verbal. But you know, other people, their mind is geared differently. So you know, I think some people need advisors, and I'm thrilled that you didn't, and you're able, you know, to do it on your own. That's pretty awesome.
just a hint, you'll see during the next 2 weeks, you don't have to know very much. It's really simple. If you do simple investments, and as an engineer, I always taught KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. And we use KISS at work. And at work, I was an engineer, and we built the most sophisticated anti-submarine warfare systems in the world. Sometimes 30 to 40 cabinets worth of electronics, 6 feet tall, 3 feet 2 or 3 feet wide by deep. And our motto was always keep it simple, stupid.
I think your grandchild had a question that we didn't hear him ask.
Which one? I have 4 of them here, I think.
Oh, there you go.
I have a question.
Sure.
Mommy, why so if you wanted to buy something that would cost all of your money before you buy that, would you get more money maybe?
Yes, you shouldn't really spend all your money on one thing. It's better to save it for other things as well. And that's one of my 6-year-olds.
Oh,
So I'm going to make a plug for financial advisors. After 2008, when many people were unhappy with their investments, my son said to us, why don't you get a financial advisor? It'd be cheaper than a divorce. He was right. He said you can be mad at the financial advisor rather than each other. So that's what we did, and it's worked great.
As I say, if you can't do it on your own, financial advisors could be very good, but they do charge typically anywhere from 0.5% if you're lucky to 1.5% or more. And if you don't have a lot of money, they probably won't want you. Or if you don't have a lot of money, they're not going to spend a lot of time investing for you, or they may just do cookie cutter things. But what they will have discipline, and that could be important. And just a hint, if you looked at last March, the stock market went down 30% between last March and May. So a financial advisor would know what to do. But if you were doing your own investments, you might panic and sell. And when the stock market goes down, that's absolutely the worst time to sell. You don't lose any money unless you sell. And by the way, even though the stock market went down 30% between March and May, it was up, I think, at least 15% for the whole year. So it rebounded and then went up. So one of the questions I asked before, what do you do when the stock market goes down? You don't sell, you buy. The best time to buy is when the market has gone down.
well, Ira, you've taught me already a lot. I know that Kirk and I use a combination of both, and maybe understand more at that next financial advisor meeting, because a lot of it just goes over my head. And I talk, so I'll be able to better understand and be more of a participant instead of just listening. So thank you.
Oh, listening is fine. And thank everybody for coming.